Hello, my name is Brandon Kreutz and I'm a fifth-year engineering student at CSU. I wrote an empirical report on the experiment performed in a separate class on the effects of the ab wheel and sit-ups on the abdominal muscles from an electromyographic point of view. The experimental purpose of this was to determine if the unassisted ab wheel exercise device provides a more efficient and better abdominal workout than the traditional sit-up. Both the ab wheel device and the sit-up both target the upper rectus abdominis, or URA, lower rectus abdominis, or LRA, external obliques, or EO, and rectus femoris, or RF. The rectus femoris stimulation negatively impacts the results of the abdominal muscles because the RF assists in the motion of the exercise, and therefore reduces the amount of work that the abdominal muscles have to do to perform the exercise. Electromyography was used to read these comparisons numerically. To do this, electrodes were placed in line with the muscle fibers on the appropriate muscles on the body, and the electrodes sense voltage changes in the muscles during muscle contraction and during the exercise, and transmit this to an electromyography machine and then into a computer for data interpretation. Results for this compare the ab wheel and sit-up voltage change readings to determine if one exercise stimulates the muscle more than the other. Both the ab wheel and sit-up exercises were performed at a beat cadence of 120 beats per minute, with 3 beat intervals for the ascension and then 3 beats for the return to the original position. 3 sets were done at 5 repetitions per set. Also, the form can be seen for each exercise in the diagrams in the slide. Also, maximum voluntary isometric muscle contractions, or MVICs, were used to normalize the data. This provides a percentage of the muscle stimulation for each exercise to compare it to see if the difference between the two is significant enough to claim that one is better than the other. The MVIC is found by contracting the muscle as much as possible under complete movement restriction. Exercises that stimulate the muscle at 60% of the MVIC or higher are generally good for increasing muscle strength efficiently. During the testing of this experiment, 6 test subjects were used, and each did both exercises in a randomized order over the course of several days to emulate more of a gym setting. Data from the EMG was filtered and then graphed to make it less difficult to interpret. Using this data and a 95% confidence interval, we were able to conclude if one exercise was better than the other. A 95% confidence interval essentially means that, for example, if the ab wheel generates a significantly higher EMG reading than the sit-up 95% of the time, the ab wheel can be claimed better than the sit-up for increasing muscle stimulation. What I mean by significantly higher is indicated by the MVIC readings as a percentage. As can be seen by the graph, the criteria is only met by the LRA, therefore it can be claimed that the ab wheel generates a higher muscle stimulation in the LRA than the sit-up, but the same cannot be said about any of the other muscle groups according to our data. Some of the limitations for this experiment were a small sample size, as well as the small population of represented subjects. In conclusion, drawn from the 95% confidence interval, the ab wheel activates the LRA more than the sit-ups do. However, similar results were apparent from the other muscle groups. Therefore, it cannot be claimed that in the URA, EO, or RF that the ab wheel stimulates the muscles more in those muscles. But both the ab wheel and the sit-up did produce an MVIC reading that was above 60% in the URA and LRA, which implies that both exercises are effective for increasing abdominal muscle strength in those 2 muscle groups. The limitations that were mentioned earlier, if those were corrected and adjusted to be representative of a larger population, significant differences may be seen in some of the other muscle groups. However, with the data that was acquired in this one, only the LRA can be concluded, as the ab wheel stimulates it more than the sit-up.